Greetings, my audience. I'm reviewing 2000 flick, the X-Men movie starring Hugh Jackman, the first installment to the original saga of the X-Men Fox Universe franchise. I give it a 7 out of 10, above average. It's okay in my book. It's above mediocre. In my book, that's good enough to say there's magic in this monstrosity of a mess of a movie that has great creative ideas but don't really feel like they have any rhyme or reason to be in the movies. Like, characters feel underdeveloped and misunderdeveloped. They feel underdeveloped and not on purpose. Like X-Men, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Jean and Mystique is okay in the movie. The bad guys are the highlight of the movie. Is this everyone on Team X-Men is like underdeveloped. I mean, the bad guys are fine, hateable enough, and iconic enough feeling, and the X-Men feel iconic enough, but they don't feel developed enough to feel like the movie's not about one person, and one person being Wolverine, and they make it clear that Professor X is the founding of the X-Men. Remember, that founded the X-Men and made the X-Men, and made that clear, true to the source material. And he makes everyone dress in ridiculous black leather jumpsuits, tights that really hug the body. That looks like very uncomfortable. Easy mockable. As mockable as the ones from the actual source material. So it makes you wonder, why didn't they just use any of the ones from the source material in comics that were already existing at the time, instead of making their own ridiculous costume that looked just as ridiculous and as tight looking on the body. It just confuses me. Why didn't they just go all the way? Was trying, I don't know. Not saying the costumes are bad, they're just ridiculous enough that they have a charm to them, like Christopher Reeve's spandex costume with the cape. So the costumes aren't bad at all, they have a ridiculous charm to them. You get used to them, and that's probably why they kept reusing them, and again in the later two of the installments with the X-Men 2 United and X-Men 3 Last Stand, the third installment of the original franchise with Hugh Jackman starred in as Wolverine. Wolverine was fine developed, and I just wish this movie was rated R, so that way, because if it was rated R, I would be much more happier, because Wolverine is pretty much the main character of these movies. If all three of them, or any of them, were rated R instead of PG-13, giving us a watered-down, less violent Wolverine than the Wolverine from the comics, but still a more violent Wolverine than the Wolverine from Wolverine the animated series. But I still wish they kind of went for it with R. Back when they could still do R, before R went stop making R movies eventually sometime. That became a thing. Didn't think that would become a thing, but that became a thing. Here we are, and the pretty much don't really make R-rated movies anymore. But wouldn't it be cool if we could get an R-rated X-Men movie with Wolverine the main character? Wouldn't that be cool if Wolverine was the main character in these X-Men movies, but the movies are all rated R? The original trilogy of the X-Men with Hugh Jackman Wolverine, that would have been so cool like Logan. And that's my big problem. It's not as good as Logan. The trilogy of the original one that Hugh Jackman was a part of is why I give the original trilogy 7 out of 10. All 3 installments to the X-Men trilogy starring Hugh Jackman. The original run with Fox X-Men run. I give all 3 7 out of 10 each installments. In the third one, I decided I like Jean Grey. I was going to say Mystique because what I'm trying to say, I meant to say Jean Grey. I like Jean Grey more as the villain than I liked her as the good guy, one of the team players on the X-Men movie in the trilogy of Bryan Singer's X-Men trilogy that he started. Was the first 2 ones that he directed, and someone taking over the third one. And I enjoyed the third one with the Jean Grey character. I thought the Jean Grey character was the best in the third one when she got the Phoenix taken over her in the Dark Phoenix story was told. I thought this was awesome. And I thought it was fun that they decided to kill off. That was cool. Also made it very justifying the reason for us. She also already killed Charles Xavier, the heart of the X-Men. I think that's justifying that she needs to die. Especially considering she was going to kill everyone else on the planet. Vaporized. She's just killing people left and right. Out of control, and probably going to kill everyone else. If Logan didn't stab her and kill the fucker bitch. And she also killed Cyclops, that bitch. Seriously, she needed to die. I thought it was fun how they killed her off. Although all the decision makings that had the one that had the most rhyme and reason to create a decision of original ideas that made the most sense of the story, I thought was X-Men The Last Stand. And the second one that made the most sense, did the best job of making sense out of the story, was X-Men 2 United from 2003. The first sequel. And I think the worst one in the trilogy was X-Men 2000 movie. The first installment. You see, I think the first installment, really was the worst. It felt the most sloppily edited together. Rushed one out of the bunch. 3 movies I talked about. I mean, it was dumb fun, and all these movies were, but it's more than what I want from my Marvel beloved heroes, the X-Men. I mean, for X-Men, the X-Men brands, I want more than this, okay? I want something more complex and important. That feels like emotional, has some weight to it. And I want it to be as action-packed and serious like these ones. Where if Marvel ever wants to Marvel wants to make a new X-Men movie and give a new X-Men movie a go, Personally, I think the best X-Men movie was the X-Men brand is Days of Future Past, the road cut and theatrical cut of Days of Future Past that Hugh Jackman starred in. Now I'm going to talk about X-Men Days of Future Past, the road cut, and that's the director's cut and the theatrical cut. That's the PG-13 cut. Both there. This one's a little longer. Shuffle some scenes here and there different. But basically they'll still have the same coherent narrative story overall and still have a similar outcome. Same outcome in the end and in the beginning and middle. But have different shuffling scenes here and there. Got changed here and there. Was characters like Charles, Extinct, and Mystique and Beast, and Magneto, and Wolverine, and Rogue got added to the movie in the road cut. But that's strange because it's called the road cut, like the rogues in the movie become a main player for some reason, even though she's only in a cameo later in the movie, who takes over for a wounded character that gets stabbed by Wolverine in the present because Wolverine's freaking out in the past due to time travel reflexes in his brain, and he's by reacting and freaking out, blah blah blah. Was again whiplash without time, back and forth, and not hearing time travel well, trip smooth, you know. His desk stressing out a little below and stabs one of his X-Men that will helping him keep the time travel steal. So then Rogue takes over for Kitty Pryde after absorbing Kitty Pryde's powers, and then she takes over for Kitty Pryde for keep the time travel loop stable. You know that Logan's in trying to change the past of Days of Future Past premise, where Mystique killed Senator Kelly, President Senator Kelly, in the 60s, and so they have to stop Mystique from killing Senator Kelly, who in this time is played by a different actor than the one in the first X-Men movie, because that X-Men movie, Senator Kelly, has been erased from time, I'm guessing, and retcon, because the movie forgot about that movie, and the writers must have forgotten about that movie. But it's okay. He's still played by a good actor, Peter Dinklage, a shorter actor than the other. He doesn't look anything like the other Senator Kelly. Okay, the other Senator Kelly was played by a regular-sized man, and the other one's played by a dwarf-sized height character. It's just a little confusing, I think, within the contents of the X-Men movies, trying to make these movies connect. God damn it! But I digress. Other than that, I like this movie a lot. The characters dynamics with the X-Men characters finally feel like dynamic character for real life characters when they interact with each other. They feel like there's a history, and they feel like real connections between these characters of the X-Men that are on the run in the future and wanted by the Sentinels, and who are hunting down humans and X-Men, like the mutants, and enslaving them, and giving hell to both mutant and humankind. Sentinels. And because the past have affected the Sentinels from the future, so the Sentinels have powers like adaptability powers like Mystique, because they experimented on Mystique from the past after she got killed due to the events when she assassinated Kelly, and then later she got Mystique, got experimented on and worked into the Sentinel program, blah blah blah. And use that to make the Thanos more dangerous, deadly, and almost unkillable, and pretty much indestructible now, and harder to kill. and destroy, you know? Those kind of signals that the X-Men are facing the future. Well, most of the X-Men and mutants and mutants are murdered and lost and dead and under extinct. It's explained briefly in monologue through Charles Xavier from the future. Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart, replies as well as Charles, and the other Xavier replies as well as Charles Xavier, and the young Charles, who plays the young Charles, forget the guy's name, actor. Okay, I don't remember his name. Don't know his name, okay? The guy that plays is Charles in First Class, replies as well in this movie. Is that Charles? It's basically explaining the plot of this X-Men Days of Future Past, that both Charles are the same person from different timelines earlier in their lives, but from the same timeline. So that's why I have to do time travel, and it's explained very well in this movie, but not overly explained like The Matrix does with some of their dialogue. Like, it doesn't under-explain shit, like, and doesn't have, like, never shuts up moment with this dialogue. Like, you know how, like, the Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, never shut up the fuck up with the dialogue? It just never shuts up, even during, really does shut up. In the when it shuts up, you, like, just think, thank God, because the dialogue is not that great, you know? And the dialogue likes to hear itself talk and over-explain. And I have that problem with the original trilogy of the original one of in the original trilogy of X-Men 2000. I felt like that liked to over-explain sometimes when it didn't really need to explain as much. But then I think that was because it wasn't, I could have been edited better, you know? The story. This didn't make like as much sense as it could have had, okay? Is what I'm trying to say. The first X-Men movie and the sequel and also the third one. But Days of Future Past actually pulled it off as I was surprised by it each time I see it. It felt like it learned from the past mistakes of the first 3 X-Men movies and knew what the first 3 X-Men movies did something wrong when they try X-Men, and think, okay, so this guy tried this, something similar to this was the dynamic, while telling a coherent narrative and a comparing original narrative that different version of Days of Future Past than you've heard from the past installments from the comics or from the animated series or X-Men and Wolverine series, the cartoon series that told Days of Future Past prior before this movie, and pulls out fairly well, I think, telling the Days of Future Past story and making it feel like it's an important, epic event. I think they should have ended the X-Men movie with this movie, but they didn't. They made another one. And then another one with Team X-Men. 2 more after this one. That was Dark Phoenix and Apocalypse. What happened? With those movies? I'm going to save that for another video, and because I'm going to talk about those ones in a separate video along with First Class, because I'm a little exhausted now talking about X-Men run with Hugh Jackman movies. So, I give this Days of Future Past, the road cut and theatrical cut of the Days of Future Past movie, a 10 out of 10. Even that is PG-13 censored and not R-rated. Or it's not even rated R. It's good, really good, I thought. I enjoyed this movie a lot. To give this movie a 10 out of 10, Days of Future Past, the road cut, and Days of Future Past, theatrical cut, a 10 out of 10. I give both cuts of Days of Future Past, the X-Men movie. And the first 3 movies get a 7 out of 10 for above average. It's okay, yeah, in my book. But they're a bit of a hot mess of movies. The original trilogy for me, each 3 installments. Because these don't make a lot of sense in the movie, to me. So, that's my review on the X-Men movies with Hugh Jackman. Started. Goodbye, good night, my audience. Subscribe, hit the thumbs up to like this video. Hit the comment section below if you want to. Comment below if feel framing if you want to. And good night. Bye.